Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and today we're going to be talking about Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. I'm going to explain the whole process because this has been a long evaluation process in regards to Tyler Guyton, a prospect that initially I was not too fond of, looked more into, and now I actually came away really impressed. We're going to get into it. Before we do, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogan. Now, before I get into the rest of this, I just want to say one thing right now. This is not going to have any sort of, there's going to be no clips, no film clips, highlights, anything like that. The reason being, this will just be me talking about his strengths, his weaknesses. I'll give you my draft grade, all of that, just no clips. The reason being is that Exos Digital has taken upon themselves to copyright claim my content again. I thought we were past that, but they copyright claimed the last Brian Thomas Jr. video I did. So unfortunately for you guys, I can't put out clips anymore. I do this for a full-time job. I can't have them taking 99% of my video revenue just because, I had a 5-second clip of something. So really unfortunate. It absolutely fits within the laws of, fair use, but the only one who's actually copyright infringing, to be honest with you, is actually Exos, because they're taking young creators and smaller creators like myself. They're taking our money that they have plenty of. They're taking our revenue for 99% of our video being a talking head video, 99% of the video being us. They're taking that away from us. So unfortunately, that's why there's no video in this. Anyway, thanks for sticking along. I understand it was a little bit of a rant, but it is my platform, and I want to put that out there to let you guys know that Exos is kind of lame. Anyway, let's move on. So Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma is a 2-year starter coming out, and he actually transferred from TCU, where he was signed out of high school as an athlete. Okay, just an athlete. We've seen it before. Guys like Tavon Austin get signed out of high school as athletes, so then you kind of just figure it out after that where they're going to fit. Maybe sometimes they'll play different positions. Like, you look at the kid over in Colorado who's playing on both sides of the ball, Travis Hunter. Sometimes you get that. But, with him, he played offensive tackle, or at least he was going to, and he wanted to get on the field so bad that he was willing to play tight end. He's incredibly athletic, built offensive tackle, 6'7", 330, and he's a very quality pass protector and has exciting room to grow. The reason I say this is because, this is definitely somebody who is going to get the label that he is a project, right? He is raw, and I think raw is fair. But I want to make it very clear. A project is a tackle like, do you remember Julian Davenport from Bucknell, small school program, had crazy athletic traits and tools and all of that and perfect body size. That's a project, though, because he didn't have the technique at all. This is a pretty well coached up player. I want to say that because Bill Bendenbaugh, who is the offensive line coach at Oklahoma, has a fantastic track record. You talk about Anton Harrison last year, Wanya Morris. I mean, all sorts of guys. Lane Johnson could be added to that. So there's a lot of really good resumes from Oklahoma drafting tackles. Now, I understand the first thing you might think of is if you're scouting the helmet, and this is why I always say don't scout the helmet, is you're thinking of Bobby Evans, because he went to Oklahoma. The Rams drafted him, also a tackle. He's not Bobby Evans, okay? I didn't even like the Bobby Evans pick when they made it, to be honest with you. But he's definitely not Bobby Evans. He's got just this unbelievably quick amount of foot speed. I mean, his foot speed in this draft, I would say, is one of one when it comes to the tackle position. I think he is incredibly fast. It's fun to watch. He's able to mirror his assignment, but he's also able to cut edge defenders off when he gets to his landmark. So what I mean by that is when an edge defender is going to try and, basically bend around the edge and just try with just pure speed and explosion, trying to beat him to his landmark, the amount of athleticism that Tyler Guyton, basically has, he's not going to allow that to happen. He's going to cut them off before they're able to get that, additional leverage on him. So you love that. He's explosive out of his stance. He thrives as a pulling tackle. So this is somebody that can be used because of the former tight end background. He could be used. It's on full display. He moves very well. Like I said, very, very good athlete. One thing that really stands out to me is looking at him, the one-on-one matchups. He is going to, I don't know if he'll do it, but someday it feels like he's going to break somebody's arm. He disarms edge defenders by chopping out their arm. Like he has his own, he's a weed whacker, essentially. It is impressive, honestly. When I'm watching a guy and he gets to him at the point of attack, and you have Tyler Guyton basically chopping out his arm, it really gives him the leverage where he can now just take over the rep, and he does that. And he's very intelligent as a football player. You can tell he's been well coached by Bill Bendenbaugh. I think you have to give him that prop. Nasty, physical at the point of attack. He's got massive overall upside, and this is a guy that can really drop the anchor. I think when you look at Guyton, initially you would say, okay, maybe you look at one rep or 2 reps or 3 reps, or maybe even watch a game and the cut-ups or whatever, and you see he wasn't that great in this game, and you kind of just brush him to the side. I think his best is really good. The best things he puts on tape, the real highlight moments, I'm not talking about highlights, watching the actual All-22 film, this is somebody that has a chance to be really good at the next level. Okay, I'm very excited about Tyler Guyton and his upside, just as a football fan, but also, covering the Rams and knowing that Peter Schrager, who I would say is more in on the Rams than other reporters and analysts, Schrager mocked him to the Rams at 19. I initially had a little bit of a groan. I was like, really? This is the one tackle, if anybody knows me, I was not really too high on at the top. I have since changed that stance because, I think the issue when I was watching him, I watched him right after watching Alt and Fashanu. I don't think that was really fair to him because expecting him to do exactly what they're doing is a little unfair, but he's also doing things that they're not doing. And I think that's also something to mention. And keep in mind, this is somebody who's relatively new to the position. I mean, he only has 2 years starting as an offensive tackle. So I'm definitely willing to work with that. I think it's impressive. The last 2 seasons at OU, he's only given up 15 pressures in 15 starts. So I like that. And only 1 sack. Didn't give up a sack this past year. So what are his weaknesses? Well, the first thing is, I would say his lack of starts. He's only had 15 career starts as of 2022. So to be fair, I mean, it's not really anything he can really control. I mean, he got on the field when he got on the field. Your coach has to put you in or not. Another weakness, I would say, he only has one, in my opinion, is a weakness. He only has 1 game as a left tackle. The rest, he's predominantly a right tackle. The reason that's a weakness is because that tells me that I guess the experience of the versatility isn't there. Doesn't mean he can't play left tackle, but that is a little bit of a concern. He plays a little too upright for me. He's a tall player. I mean, I just mentioned he's 6'7". I'd like to see a little bit more knee bend, okay? I'd like to see, him crouch down more and be able to use most of his power and really get the most of it. But again, he's raw, okay? Raw doesn't mean project. Raw just means you're not quite there yet. And I mean, we don't know when he'll be there. I mean, as soon as people hear raw, they think 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I'll be honest with you. He could be ready to go by September. NFL coaching on top of what he got in college, he could be ready to go by September. This is a guy that's ready and willing. We just, went over the idea that he just wanted to get on the field, so he was willing to transfer positions and play a tight end just to get on the field. That's a player that you want. That's great stuff. He's also very coachable, and you see that. Like he's got like some nuance to his game where, you notice just his foot positioning, like right when the ball snapped, he'll move like his left foot off to the left while he has the guy coming off to the right, kind of giving him some, he can read things. And again, the arm chops and things like that. It just, I like him a lot. I'm a big fan of his game. And, I'd say going with the weaknesses though, as far as playing a little too upright, he also missed 2 games at least the last 2 years as a starter. That could be a little concerning. His hand placement is very inconsistent, so I'd like to see him get better at that. He doesn't have the desired elite grip strength. It's good enough, but it's a little bit of a weakness compared to some of the guys ahead of him in this draft. And I would say he's a work in progress in the run game. And I think if you work with him, the progress he's going to make in the run game, it means he's going to be really freaking good. I think he's got all the tools. He's got everything at his disposal. Now he just needs to put it all together. My final thoughts on Tyler Guyton before we get into, the grading. Guyton has come a long way in the last 2 years. You can't take that away from him. Transferred from TCU, played tight end, moved to offensive tackle. I'm definitely impressed. And I like that I just kept watching because I just kept picking up on more things that I was really getting excited about. He possesses rare traits. He can be molded into a top tackle because of it. I mean, there is such a thing as, God-given talent. I mean, let's be honest here. Who was more likely to succeed, when they were, 21 or whatever? Would you say Tyler Guyton playing football or Jake Ellenbogen? And I would say, I'd say his God-given talent, he definitely got that one. With that said, though, all these guys have size, right? There's a lot of different guys that have these crazy, oh, wow, he's 6'7", 330. He's incredibly athletic. Foot speed is through the roof. But then they're not coachable. And I feel like he is coachable, and I think that's only going to make him even, his ceiling higher at the next level based on the coaching at the next level. I feel like he gets labeled as a boom or bust player, but to me, when you're that coachable, I just don't see him being that. I see him just being a good player or becoming an elite tackle. I mean, he's either going to be a good tackle or an elite tackle, in my opinion. Now, good could mean good backup, good starter, but that's how I feel. I think he's going to be a good tackle, and he has potential to be an elite tackle depending on where he goes. And another thing people will say is, as soon as you get a big offensive lineman who is a little raw and very athletic, they'll say Greg Robinson. He's nothing like Greg Robinson. First off, Greg Robinson was a much better run blocker. Second, he was a horrible pass protector, very, very raw. And this guy, I'd say Guyton is ready for the NFL in a sense in pass protection. I think you could get through an entire season with him in pass protection. He's not going to be the best. He's going to give up sacks. He's going to give up pressures, but you could get through it. I think he wouldn't be the worst starter in the league. In the run game, that's where he needs to improve on the most, I think. But the more I watch his tape, I really like him. Initially I felt like he was too raw for my liking, but I think he's very much worth a first round selection. And I'm going to say this right now. Going through his grades and everything, I gave him an 86.6. I gave him an 8.8 agility out of 10, 8.2 pass protection, 7.8 run blocking, 9.5 spatial movement, 8.5 pull/trap, 9 play strength, 8.4 technique, 9.7 size, 8.5 awareness, and 8.2 balance. 86.6. I just updated my rankings. He is actually ahead of Amarius Mims now and will be 5th on my tackle list. I think anybody who is concerned if the Rams draft him in the first round needs to understand that the Rams are in a really good position where if they take any of these tackles, they have a great offensive line coaching staff, okay? So I understand being concerned about a guy who's a little bit raw and you don't have the coaching staff, but you can't sit there and tell me to trust Sean McVay and trust Les Snead, but then not trust them if they grab a guy with all these tools and all this ability. And the fact that, he was well coached by a really good top-notch coach in college. You can't tell me that. So, I think at the end of the day, you have to feel good about, what Tyler Guyton is. And I think any team is going to be happy to get a guy like that with all those tools, the measurements, and just, his foot speed, which is definitely there, but I think also just that strength. And again, the potential is just really limitless if you get him with NFL coaching, since he has deemed himself to be coachable. So, does he make sense for the Rams? Absolutely. He's a huge fit for the Rams. I'd say he's one of the better fits in this draft for the Rams. I think there's a chance, and I'm not saying he'll do it, but there's a chance that the Rams were to draft Tyler Guyton. He would be the starting left tackle week 1, okay? Hear me out when I say that. I really think there's a chance that that would be the case. And I think the Rams could get him at 19. I think they could trade up for him depending on where the buzz is on him. This is a really good tackle class. And with the recent news from Albert Breer that Troy Fautanu was apparently red flagged for a knee, it really does raise the question, hey, the need is still there for a lot of teams at tackle. If Fautanu falls, that means another tackle is going to take over that spot. There's going to be a team willing to reach to essentially fill the need. And does that mean it's Tyler Guyton? Does that mean it's Amarius Mims? I don't know. I don't know who it'll be. But what I am saying is that definitely opens up something. So, look, I think Guyton's a perfect fit for the Rams. I think he'd make a lot of sense for their offense. He might not be my number one option because I have some other guys. Obviously, trading up for Joe Alt to me would be the best option. But getting him at 19 is not bad at all. And if you trade down and you acquire him and then maybe trade back into the first and get somebody like Chop Robinson, then you have already had yourself a whale of a draft before it's even really gotten going. So Tyler Guyton is a way that the Rams can really set the tone early on, showing that, yeah, you could also look forward to this season potentially with Tyler Guyton as left tackle, but the future is going to be that much brighter, checking off a very important box, which is the future left tackle position. Keep in mind, if you're sitting there saying, what about Alec Jackson? He's on the roster at $4.8 million a year. You have Joe Noteboom who's on the roster. These two guys, their contracts expire, okay, after the season. And Alec Jackson, whether you like it or not, if he's a solid tackle this year as a starter, he's going to make $20 million next year. And the Rams aren't going to give him that. So I think this is the smart move. This is a great tackle class. I think it's smart to get invested. So I would absolutely sign off on a draft pick of Tyler Guyton for the Los Angeles Rams. I know, sounds crazy. If you heard me before, this was not a guy I had on my radar or I liked. But this is also a reminder how just because you go through an evaluation process doesn't mean it's always perfect. We miss on things. And I'll be the first one to admit I'm a huge believer in self-scouting. I'll be the first one to admit that, let's be honest here, I missed on Tyler Guyton early on, I think. And I think that going back and having more of an open mind, and shout out to, my colleague over at Turf Show Times, Blaine Grisack, for kind of pushing me in this direction to give him, more of a chance. I'm glad I did. I watched more film on him, and sometimes I only get to really watch 3 games if I'm trying to watch all these different guys. But for bigger first round options, especially covering a team that now has a first round pick, I felt like I owed it to myself, I owed it to you guys, and I owed it to Tyler Guyton, who we'll never probably know. But I'm glad I did. And yeah, I think you guys, I understand some won't be a fan of it, but I think you guys should really be open about this. I think he could make a huge difference. And it may not be the Orlando Pace pick where they get him in 97 and he is like a bookend left tackle and just, he's going to be special. One of the best tackle prospects ever coming out of Ohio State. It may not be like that. It may be that he's not ready for 2 years, but I think when he's ready, this is going to look really good. And I'd rather have them do this than draft a quarterback because I think this guy is a lot better than some of the quarterbacks that people have going ahead of him. So again, wicked good tackle class. I'm all for grabbing one of these guys, especially because offensive line and especially this offense is a lot more, I would say, lopsided than the defense. I think there's a lot more offensive talent that is going to go early on in the draft, that's going to go early in the first round and the middle and the late, because I think there's just way more offensive talents. And you could sit there and say, well, that's why I should scoop up the defense because it's the lack of, demand and all of that. That's not the way to go. I think you have to get the best players available. And if the Rams deem that Tyler Guyton is the best player available for them, I think it makes sense and go for it. So those are my thoughts. Talk my head off there, but I, can't use clips. Otherwise, 99% of my talking head video will get, claimed by Exos. So want to stay away from that. But appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. Hopefully I changed your mind if you were out on Tyler Guyton. Hopefully you give him a look. Do yourself a favor, check him out. I think you'd be really impressed if you watch, some of his tape. He's not perfect, but when you have those traits and you have a coaching staff the Rams have, they are very much equipped to take this guy to where he's supposed to go. So those are my thoughts. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm out of here. Later, folks. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.